This is the DAR Today podcast, and I'm your host, Brooke Bullmaster Stewart. Today we have a really big segment to play for you, but before we get into that, I want to ask you, especially for our members, have you noticed that the registration opened for Continental Congress for this summer in June? A lot of the events really sell out, so you'll want to hop on there right away. What are some of your favorites? What do you plan on attending this year? I know for me, I love the teas that happen with the Pennsylvania and the California State Societies. I love the Patriotism Luncheon, of course, the units overseas, all of it, all of the above. And we'd love to know what your favorites are. Let us know in the show notes. Of course, we'll see you all there Friday evening at the Sparkle in Service Showcase event. We'll have a table, our committee will, at this event, as we always do, so we can't wait to see you. We hope you stop by. Now, speaking of registering, on September 19th and 20th, I know it seems early, but you'll want to sign up now for this really amazing event. The event is called Spain and the Birth of American Democracy, a history symposium that will be presented in Constitution Hall at the Daughters of the American Revolution headquarters there in D.C. A cornerstone event in DAR's America 250 celebrations, the two-day event is hosted by DAR in conjunction with the Queen Sofia Spanish Institute and the Fundación Ramón Areces. And to quote our President General Pamela Wright, a prime objective at DAR is to shine a light on the historical accomplishments of Revolutionary War patriots, many of them underrepresented, and tell of their bravery, sacrifice, and honor. She goes on and says, "It is our hope that through events like this upcoming symposium, we illuminate the contributions of all patriots who fought for our country's freedom, including those from Spain," end quote. Well, all events at the symposium will be free and open to the public, so you just need to go in and register, though, ahead of time. And we'll leave a link to that registration in the show notes. And another thing, with regard to our America 250, our semi-quincentennial celebrations, look around your area, see what's happening now. The Battle of Lexington and Concord, for one, was just commemorated. Of course, coming up in May, on May 20th, is the 250th anniversary of the Mecklenburg Declarations. So find those things in your area that are happening. And if there's nothing in your area that's happening for that, make something. Create an event, commemorate these important events in our American history. We'll have an example of that coming up in a couple of weeks, and we can't wait to show it to you. And so for today, we have an amazing interview segment for you today. It was an interview with three people that, quite frankly, were absolutely fascinating. So let's get right to that. But as you know, we always ask that you subscribe to this podcast, hitting that notification bell so you never miss an episode. And as always, hey, thanks so much for being here with us today. A Soldier's Journey was created by master sculptor Sabin Howard, who is renowned for infusing his works with classical and neoclassical vitality. It is the highlight of the Memorial Park at 1493 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, the former home of Pershing Park, and is the largest freestanding high-relief bronze in the Western Hemisphere. The memorial stands a block from the White House and across from the J.W. Marriott Hotel, which many daughters will recognize as the host hotel for NSDAR's Continental Congress. In fact, we would encourage everyone to not only visit this monument during Congress, but anytime you're in D.C. There are other connections to the National Society. NSDAR contributed $150,000 toward the $44 million cost of the memorial. Additionally, the face of the shell-shocked soldier belongs to Christopher Rehnberg, a former U.S. Army Ranger whose mother, Jenny Rehnberg, is a past Curator General of the National Society and Honorary State Regent of Connecticut DAR, and whose wife, Stephanie Rehnberg, is a member of Jordan Freeman DAR Chapter, Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Join with me now as we talk with them and hear all about the amazing journey on the way to creating this historic monument. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. We have Sabin Howard and Christopher Rehnberg and Stephanie Rehnberg. And thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. I can't wait to introduce you or have you introduce yourselves to everyone and tell us a little bit about what you've done. Sabin, would you tell us about who you are?
Yeah, I'm Sabin Howard. I'm the sculptor for the National World War I Memorial. The memorial is a 60-foot long bronze wall that has 38 figures and tells the soldier's journey. It weighs 25 tons and took 9.5 years to make.
9.5 years. That I can't even imagine what happened in the 9.5 years. Can you tell us about the beginnings of that, your ideas for the beginnings?
Well, the project was a national, well, global competition, 360 entrants, and land had been allocated for through a federal mandate. Congress and the president had been involved, and it began in 2015 with a competition that ran 6 months. So first you had to win it, and from that point, then you had to design it, and then you had to sculpt it and pass through agency approval. Truly a miracle that this happened and can be given back to we the people as a acknowledgement of our country's exceptionalism.
I feel like even though it is a World War One monument, when we think about us as DAR members and what, we of course are connected to Revolutionary War patriots. That is how we've become Daughters of the American Revolution. I feel like in looking at this memorial that this is really every soldier's journey, isn't it? This could be any war. And so I would love for you to tell us, if you don't mind, Sabin, the progression of from the left to the right, the beauty of that progression of the soldier's journey.
The alpha and omega of the monument are a young girl, and I actually used my daughter Madeline, and that 4 year span of creation was clearly seen in how that young girl grows into a young woman. And
the 4 years of the war, right?
yeah, that's
kind
right.
of perfectly mimics that.
Exactly right. And so the main protagonist is a soldier, a dad, and an allegory for the United States. And he begins with the family, and then leaves his wife and family for service to country, enters into battle, and is transformed. And that's where Chris Rehnberg came in with the face of the shell-shocked figure. That is the principal figure that's the focus of the whole monument. And from that 3/4 mark till the end, there's the return home where the dad and soldier hands his helmet back to his daughter, and she is given the rewards, which are World War II. And that's the next generation. So this is a historical story, but it is not a glorification of war. It is a glorification of human beings and the idea of agency, that there's not a single victim on that wall. And there's never a victim in any of these sculptures, any of these figures. It's all about rising to the occasion. And that's what that monument stands for.
Wasn't there even symbolism in the helmet at the beginning, right?
Yeah, the helmet is not open at the beginning, but then at the end, the helmet is open, and it's almost like Pandora's box has been opened. And the war that was supposed to end all wars was the war that kicked off wars that have been running till present day, these never-ending wars. And I am very averse to war, if anyone is curious.
Right. And so, Chris, that's how you got brought in then. And can you tell me about that unusual way in which you met?
Yes. I was Sabin used to live in the same town as we do. Knew me locally. Understood that I had a security company. I go down to do was hired by Sabin Howard to come down to his studio to conduct a security check to see how good their security is and everything within the confinement. So I go down there, I do my walk around, and then when I give time to brief him on my findings and the updates that I would give to his studio, he comes really close to my face within real confinements of my face, which I was not very comfortable at the time, him being as close. And he keeps turning over to his wife, Tracy, And he goes, I think this is the guy. And then he looks at me again and he goes, I think he's shell shocked. I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm shell shocked, but and then all of a sudden he took a step back and said, I'm sorry for being so close, but you're gonna be I like you to be a model for me for my wall. And that's how it started. He offered it to me. I said I would need some time to go home and talk to my wife and think about it. My wife automatically said, absolutely, no is not an option. We're going to help Howard and Sabin out. And we have 2 young children at the time. So working at home, she'd be by herself because the first figure took about 3 weeks to 4 weeks to do. Sabin's very articulate in the way he does everything, and you can see it with how he works. And that's how we met.
That's something. Stephanie, what was your thought when he came home and said that?
Well, my first thought, especially as a DAR member, this is part of history. And to honor our ancestors as we do, honor, veterans, deployed soldiers, it was an absolute yes. We were so excited to be a part of the process. Chris getting to work with Sabin, it was just an absolute yes all the way. We were so happy to be a part of the whole process, the journey. Just amazing for our family.
So Christopher, your mother was very involved in DAR, wasn't she?
Yes, she got involved with the local chapter. She wanted to she got involved because of her father's passing, my grandfather. And she wanted to understand where he came from, where we came from, and then got into the genealogy side of it. But she's loved the DAR, and she still does. She's been everything from a regent all the way to the state regent, and then has worked even on the national board.
Yeah. Past curator general.
Right.
Through DAR, is that correct? How did that happen?
We did. We actually met during Jenny Rehnberg's her state conference. We were placed next to each other at the table. I was there attending as a delegate from my chapter, and Chris had just come back from
Iraq.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I just literally got out of the military. I sit down and I'm sitting next to my sister, and in between Stephanie and I was a lady by the name of Terry Fisher, who was Stephanie's friend, and they came together. So I asked my sister if she was seeing anyone, because I didn't want to be rude and come straight forward at a meeting and asking her out. So
Place to find dates, right?
Yeah, I know. The DAR dating scene.
So she gave me the green light, and it's been history ever since.
Well, for Sabin, did you see, because you used a number of veterans in your work, did you not? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the first part of the memorial, I used regular college boys and actors, which was fine because those scenes are prior to entering into battle. And as Chris's face testifies, that is a record of his history, what he's been through. And so the actual scars and wounds that are picked up along the way, which are heavy on the psychological side, manifest themselves in the face and also in their bodies, but especially in their faces. And so after the battle scene, which is the midpoint on that wall, the first 30 feet, we move into the cost of war scene. And really from that moment till the end, I used 6 different veterans, from Navy SEALs to Rangers like Chris Rehnberg to Marines. All of them had seen combat duty. Some of them had been in very, very difficult positions. Ricky Zambrano came to work for me for the last 2 years of the project. He had been in 7 months of combat duty, and then, and I can be public about this, he's came back ballooned up to 300 pounds and went to the VA and the VA gave him 18 different pills to deal with his issues of depression. There's no kind of training to get back into civilian life. There's training to go to war, but not to re-enter, and re-entry is pretty damn harsh. He landed back on U.S. soil, and within 40 minutes, one of his brothers had shot himself in the head. And that is what we are facing, something incredibly poignant, where these men go off in service of, this is like you're risking your life. And then the acknowledgement from citizens in everyday life is pretty much nil. So there's a sense of worthlessness, and reintegration is just not happening. And then he tried to kill himself, and from that moment on, it was a matter of there was something that he found, because he did not off himself. He came back, and he is now stronger than he ever has been. And his story is on that wall, as is Chris's story, because that is our history. And I just want to mention here, this is really important, the resilience that we see in our servicemen is the resilience that our country has in our history and will have in the future. And that is what I stand for, and that is what I fight for. And so I am honored to be working with servicemen, because they bring something to the table that civilians have never experienced. And that's a sense of bravery and a sense of rising to the occasion. So
because of them, we have our freedoms, right?
that's right.
And
I
love that part of the DAR and our tenet being historic preservation, education, and patriotism. And I feel like all of those, as we kind of talked before, are embodied in your sculpture. And I love to, Sabin, your depiction of the women in this memorial, that they weren't frail women that were, they were actually, I think, aren't all of them in some way carrying a soldier or ministering to a soldier?
There's another woman on that wall, and she is my older daughter. She is 35, and she is the nurse carrying the soldier who has been gassed and is blinded. And she came to work for me. She lives in Albuquerque. She's a doctor. And she went through COVID, where her nickname was the Angel of Death. It's quite an inappropriate nickname, but she was in the ICU when she worked for 3 months straight, 18-hour days. And she carried the load of being shell-shocked in her own right in that hospital. And then she flew out to New Jersey to pose for me. So that power and strength, resilience is within the women as well. And this was very important to me, because this is a real honest look at someone's face. And it brings a beauty to it because it is so real. Also the wife who then holds the father soldier in the beginning, she represents the United States. She's the heroic mom. That's her title. And so and then there's another nurse that carries a wounded soldier. She was a bodybuilder, very, very strong woman. And so I sculpted the women as powerfully as men, but as females, which is completely different. Men and women are different species from my book.
Yeah.
And so there's a great deal of cohesion between the two sexes on this wall. But you have to make art really exciting and visceral, not boring. Can't be classical. It's got to be very emotional and very human. And that's what we were after. That's why we use models. That's why I use Chris Rehnberg.
You have this ability to do this. It's just something to develop that kind of talent and to preserve that way of creating sculpture,
I think
to carry it forward.
It's really, really critical. It's like the education I got in art school. I didn't start till I was 19, and then the education I received is a structure to work within. So you're doing something that allows you to be expressive. You hit your target correctly, but at the same time, you're doing something that everybody gets. And so you're not just doing it for yourself, and you're doing it for a public. And so I think it's been lost on the art world that, most of these artists are doing stuff in their studio, and it's all about them. This is not even about me. It's not even about Sabin Howard. It's about like my country and the servicemen, past and present. And so it's like, that's what I learned from the servicemen. It's like, I'm not working for myself, and this now gives me more purpose. And I think that's the most important thing in life. It's like, it's what gets you out of bed in the morning. It's like having a purpose.
Stephanie and Christopher, the fact that you have daughters who will probably get married and have children, and the fact that their father and grandfather is depicted on this wall in such a realistic way. Really cool. Albeit, do you like, Christopher? Do you like being? How tall is that structure there? Shell shocked.
He's about 10 foot.
Yeah, he's
bigger than life.
Yeah, he's 7'8", I believe. He's one of the best figures on there. He's really big, and you're looking up into him. So there's this monumental aspect to him.
Yeah.
Look, I wasn't going to sculpt these figures as on ground level. It's demeaning. Mm-hmm. It's not what we're after. We're like trying to show people what they can be. What's the potential here, folks? This is supposed to get you going and show you where you can proceed to, not like what you are. And I think that is the gift about our country, that if the people would get the lead out and just take a look at what's possible and look at our history. And what you do with DAR is incredible. I mean, how many young kids are taught by their teachers or their parents about what George Washington did when he got in those boats in the middle of winter, and then spends the whole winter in Valley Forge there's no McDonald's to go get takeout and survives it, and then defeats one of the largest armies on the planet. I mean, this is off the charts incredible. It's miraculous. Yeah. And so I think it's necessary to remember the real history, not this concocted history that has been coming up lately. Yep. I
love, Sabin, that you, and honestly, that, Stephanie and Christopher, that you get to be a part of this.
Yes,
right.
This piece that's right here, next to the White House.
Right. You can't make a sculpture like that unless you look at the citizens. And so working with people like Chris, it's a way that you bring a veritas to a project. Because his experience is not unique. I mean, sorry, Chris.
You're right.
He's one in hundreds of thousands of men who have served. Right. And it has gone back, all the way till, the beginning of the initiation of our country. So it's like this is something that is played forward. He's in lineage of the guys that went off to war 100 years ago. But he went through the same stuff and survived and came back and reintegrated into society. And so that is a way to honor both the past and the present, and then you play it forward into the future. And that's what a monument does. It's not like a tweet or something you see in the news that's a flash in the pan. No, it's something that's in bronze, and it beats mortality. And like you said, Brooke, that sculpture of Chris will be there long after he's buried. Mm-hmm. And so his future relatives will go and see Chris and remember him.
I was gonna say that even Sabin has given a lot. I mean, as just a model, I would be there from 8 and I would go home at 5. Sabin would continue until about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, working on different parts of the figure or different parts. The guy worked 5-6 years nonstop, every day,
night and day,
every day. 365.
Sabin, when was the unveiling of that? What month?
Unveiling was September 13th at sunset of last year. That was very recent.
This will be for our members who are attending the Continental Congress this summer. When you walk across and go to our DAR headquarters, you'll be passing by this memorial. And right. What a treat to be able to see that, to be able to experience that when we're at Continental Congress. And I remember seeing years ago at Continental Congress, they had on a table a soldier's journey. Of course, it was maybe Was it like 2 feet maybe?
A 5
Long?
foot version. Yeah, it was
A
5
5
foot.
foot.
Oh, 5
right?
foot. Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember just staring at it for the longest time and thinking, this is going to be a big deal,
Yeah, it's way bigger. We expire at a certain point. It's like, I would like to go to my deathbed with the sense that I don't have a nickel in my pocket. I gave everything I had.
Yeah.
Right.
And for a great cause, a great cause, which I want to just end by saying, doesn't a great country deserve great art?
Yes. Thank you all so much for your time today and telling us about this incredible memorial. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. We leave you today with this quote by John Adams. "We fight not to enslave, but to set a country free and to make room upon the earth for honest men to live in." Well, thanks for listening and be well, dear friends. Let's celebrate the stars and stripes forever and remember, with all of your ancestors behind you, you are the result of the love of thousands. This podcast was written and produced by our incredible team of writers and editors, and we are, as always, so grateful for President General Pamela Edwards Rouse Wright and Historian General Suzanne Heskey for their constant guidance. To Sabin Howard and to Christopher and Stephanie Rehnberg for being so generous with their time. The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution is a nonprofit, non-political volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving American history, and securing America's future through better education for children. Members are all lineal descendants of those who supported the cause of independence in the Revolutionary War. For more information, please visit dar.org. This is the DAR Today podcast.